Hello again, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the 80/60 rule. This is that chat 80/60 that we do every once in a while where we bring somebody else in who's got a certain expertise or a certain knowledge or some information about something that Greg and I might not know too much about. Today, we're going to be talking about online sports betting, online sports apps, stuff like that. With Vinny down there in the bottom. But first, Greg, how you doing?
Fine, Mark. How are you? Hello, Vinny. How you doing?
I'm doing good.
Thank you for joining us.
Oh yeah, it's great to be here. I'm so ecstatic.
Right, cool. Hey, wait, before we get started, Greg, I have to do this legally. I've got to read this disclaimer here just because it's about sports betting. Sports betting is legal, right? So this is legal, and it always comes out successful. You never lose any money. Moderation is not necessary when you're betting. You can go crazy, and it always comes out good in the end. So I just had to get that out of the way. A little housekeeping. Vinny, tell us a couple of guys who, like, I'm semi interested. Greg really doesn't have a whole lot of background on this sort of stuff, but it's just something that we see on every. Greg and I watch a lot of sports, so during every commercial break, I'm just going to use baseball because that's the time of year right now. There's some sort of ad, or they integrate it right into the telecast about sports betting and things. If you were talking to a couple of guys, let's say at McDonald's, the three of us are at McDonald's. I've got a egg McMuffin. You've got a sausage McMuffin, and Greg, you just have a plain biscuit. We're sitting around on a Saturday morning with a cup of coffee. What would you tell us? What do we need to know about this stuff, or why do you like it?
Well, if the reason why I enjoy it, right, is when you're doing things like this and you're placing your bets or whatever, it's almost, and it's marketed towards it where it's almost your ticket to the game nowadays, right? Whereas, like, you're sitting there, it's a Thursday night, football maybe, and you got the Jaguars and the Titans on, right? There's always that one Thursday night game that nobody wants to watch, right? They're two terrible teams going at it. But hey, maybe let me take a guy to score a touchdown. Let me take some guys, quarterbacks passing yards. Let me put a little bit of money on it. Now I'm involved into that game, right? Now it feels like I'm there, So, if I have some advice, like, to get into it, I just think those situations just become more enjoyable. And that's why I think so many people are doing it nowadays, and it's becoming so popular. Is it's so easy to do it, right? You're on your couch, you're on your lazy boy, and all you want to do now is, hey, let me put $10 on this, let me put $20 on this, let's spice it up a little bit, let's bring a little action to the living room. You know what I mean, Greg?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. That's what you get out of it, huh?
Yeah, it brings Vegas to you. It's a little bit of entertainment.
Talking what you just said now, Vinny. Do you know when to stop? Would you know
what?
Would you know when to stop?
You know what? And I think that is the biggest problem now, is it's so easy to do it, right? And it feels like, hey, oh my gosh, I've put $100 in and I haven't even realized. So I think that could be a future problem for so many people, is like, all these people are doing it nowadays. And I just think there's going to be a higher rate of whatever you want to call it, degenerate gambling. Like, and that's, I guess there's problems with everything, right, Greg? But
Yes.
I don't know. I don't have an answer for that. But what I can tell you is, for the time being, it is a very enjoyable thing. And I hope it just doesn't affect the actual sport. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. May I ask you, I don't know if you have a sister, a brother, or a child, a son or a daughter. What would you tell them to do? They say,
I would tell, what would I tell them in terms of what, to bet or not to bet?
Like, if they were starting out, what would you tell them?
I think Greg, I'll tell you something. What my dad told me, he said, when it stops becoming not fun is when you need to stop. You know what I mean? So when you're playing, right, and you're sitting there, and again, I think it all comes back to entertainment. But once you kind of get to that edge where you're like, oh, I'm losing all this money and all that, and you're just, and it doesn't become fun anymore, and it's almost like you're trying to like treat it as like a job, right? It can't get to those terms, Greg. You know what I mean? So I think as soon as it stops becoming fun is when you need to stop. That would be my answer to that.
You mentioned your generation, and then you also mentioned marketing, and that's exactly like the thing. It is so marketed to guys like you, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I'm saying that's what it is. That's you're their target audience, not necessarily us. Although I totally get what you mean. That Thursday night game, in mid-December, it makes it more exciting. And we're, like I said, we watch a lot of sports, but it does definitely enhance the telecast when I'm watching something that I normally wouldn't care about. It does make it a little more interesting when I'm like, okay, just kick the field goal. Come on, So it and also with that, when we're talking about marketing, and Greg, this is actually pretty, this is bottom line stuff, that with more viewers turning in to see if that kicker is going to hit that field goal, ad revenue goes way up. So it's like a win-win for everybody except for the guy who lost that bet,
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's interesting. And I don't know where I read something and I don't know where I got it from, got to tell you, but I'm not making this up. It said 4 to 6% of high schoolers are addicted to gambling.
How many?
4 to 6%.
4 to 6? That's nothing.
Now, I watched an ad the other day because I wanted to make sure Circa, the president.
Oh, yeah, Circa's a new one. You heard of Circa?
Yeah. He made me think, I wonder how I do it, how he's doing it. Why don't I look at it or something like that? Does that make you, does that entice you to keep going?
You know what? It doesn't. I'll tell you a funny, it's not a real statistic, Greg, but it's a funny one. They always say 99% of the gamblers in today's world quit right before their biggest win, right? That's not a real stat, but it's a funny way to keep you going, right? And that's what they always say. So that's what they're marketing it all around,
Yeah.
Now, would you ever consider going to I don't know, the next stage being on TV again? I watch the gambling shows sometimes. I would see what they're doing. Have you ever thought of like going to Vegas and being a gambler?
Yeah, you know what? I don't know if Greg, I enjoy gambling. I think I'm there for the thrill. I'm there for the entertainment, but I just enjoy what I do from my couch. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What's your, I guess we could say this, what's your app of choice? Which one, how about compare and contrast? Name like the 3 big ones and then name the one that you kind of
right.
think is cool.
Here's what's funny about all these apps, right? Is they're all competing against each other, right? They all want to have the best promotions. They want to have the best, odds boost. They want to bring people in, right? Because again, it's all marketing. They want to bring as much revenue into their sportsbook casino as possible. You know what I mean? So there's different variables. There, the 3 big ones, right, is FanDuel, DraftKings, and then probably ESPN Bet nowadays, because ESPN Bet, they bought, Greg, I don't know if you know the sports company Barstool Sports. Have you ever heard of them?
I heard of Barstools.
Yeah, Barstool, they were bought out by ESPN.
Not just Barstools. I know you've heard of Barstools, but have you heard of Barstool Sports?
No, I don't know. No.
All right. Okay. All right.
Well, I would say those 3 are the biggest. ESPN Bet, obviously, because that's the biggest sports network on TV. And then there's FanDuel and DraftKings. My personal favorite would probably have to be DraftKings because they do give you a lot more promos the more money you spend and all of this kind of stuff. So that's how they draw me in, right? But I think in terms of odds and getting your best bang for your buck, it's FanDuel.
Now, would you work for one of those companies?
Oh, I would love to. I would love to do it. That would be awesome.
Yeah?
Yeah, I would love to. If that option presented itself, I would have 100% take it and run.
Remember, it started here then.
Yeah.
Um,
What, Vinny, let's do this here because NHL is getting ready for their game 7.
I was just going to
Yeah.
say something. Isn't that something? Yeah, go
Oh,
ahead.
okay. Yeah. So that's coming up in a couple of days, game 7 between the Oilers and the Panthers. They're back in Florida, right?
They're back in Florida. Yeah.
What would be like like an appetizing or enticing bet for you when it comes to that?
Yeah. Here's I'm a big trends guy, right? And the last 3 games in the Stanley Cup final, all 3 that that Edmonton has won, all the games have gone over 5.5 goals. So for game 7, I think you got to take the under. I think you got to go against the train. I think you got to take it to be a tight game. It's game 7, and maybe you bet the draw. Maybe you bet the game to go to overtime. Because they've been very widespread, these scores. So if I were to give Greg a lock, if Greg was going to place a bet tonight, I would say bet the under 5.5 on the game 7 hockey.
That's exciting. And I could see how I would get so involved. It would be not helpful for me.
Well, I'll tell you what, Greg. I heard rumors around that you're a huge Eagles fan. Is that true?
Yes.
Well, one of my favorite guys to bet on to score a touchdown is your guy Jalen Hurts with that tush push. They always get it over the line.
Yes.
So that's one of my favorite go-to bets, especially during football season, is that Jalen Hurts anytime touchdown.
What about like in baseball? What's a typical bet for like a baseball game that you're watching?
Okay, well, there's a couple. My personal favorite, I like to bet total bases. So they'll give you lines on individual players, right? So it's just based on their stats and how well they're playing, right? I like to take, like for the Cubs, I like to take Cody Bellinger, his total bases. It usually is around 1.5 bases, meaning he has to hit 2 singles, a double, a triple, a home run cashes it all. You know what I mean?
Does a walk count or a hit by pitch?
Walks and hit by pitch do not count.
Okay. All right.
It's all in terms of actually getting hits.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, but I like for baseball, I like doing the total bases from players. I also like to do they're called Nerfies. It's no runs first inning. And so you can bet if there's going to be a run in the first inning or not. Those are really fun to do too.
Yeah, that's cool. So you tune in right at the start and see what happens.
Yeah, tune in right at the start. Put your $10, $15 down. It's usually around even money, so you double up if you win.
Oh, okay, cool.
I
love to do it. What was that?
No, may I ask you, Vinny?
Yeah.
As what you do, I'm always thinking, who is the GOAT as you're playing when a field goal kicker misses the field goal?
Now, wait a second. GOAT in this sense is who's the guy who could come off as being the one who cost you the game, not the greatest of all time, right, Greg?
Yeah, right. Or
he
missed it. Or the quarterback who threw 4 interceptions.
Okay, so, all right. If you want to go in terms of that, Greg, there's a guy that really screws everybody over all the time, and it's becoming a joke. Is Kirk Cousins? He's the Greek god of blowing everybody's bets, Greg.
Yeah,
really?
Yep. Yeah, it's very funny because if you go on Twitter after a game, everybody's like, "Oh, my bet's shot now. I'm not going to win because Kirk Cousins doesn't know how to play quarterback." So that could be the good and the bad of the sports gambling, right? Is now all these guys, they're looked upon as just a prop bet. You know what I mean? And it kind of takes away from the authenticity of the game, I guess you could say, right? But I think that's just part of what it is. It's not like gambling wasn't there prior. It's just because it's so accessible now,
You know what? That's a great point. That's the point of the day right there.
Yeah.
Gambling's always been there. Now it's just, hey, with that, is it legal in all 50 states online?
No, it's not. I think I'll tell you what, this is very funny because I was just telling my mom this because she was asking, when did it really get popular? Because I told her I was going to come on this show and talk to Greg about it. But it was funny because Greg, I went to college in Michigan. I was 20 years old. So the year I was turning 21 is when they legalized sports, online casinos, and gambling. And that was 3 years ago now. So they were the third state at the time. I think the only two other ones were maybe Pennsylvania and New York, maybe Connecticut. It was a lot of the East Coast that started, but now I believe we're almost up. I think we're a little over half. I think we're at like 31, 32, I believe.
Yeah, when states look at revenue, it's hard to beat, man. That's meaning it's hard to say no when the revenue is that great,
Yeah, I mean that's the crazy thing too, is like like you were mentioning earlier, like you're watching a game, right? And the first commercial you see is it could be 3 commercials in a row that has to just do with sports gambling. It's unbelievable. And these sports leagues and all these sponsorships, it's booming right now. And it's like a freight train that's not going to stop. You know what I mean? Because it's going to go on forever and ever and ever now, because they just realize how much money is actually put into this.
Right.
Hey, I call you Commissioner Vinny. What would you do to prevent this? To
prevent gambling?
Yeah.
No, how about, because there was just a guy, I think it was a baseball player, I want to say on the Padres. Wasn't he banned for life because he was betting on his own games?
Yes.
Yeah, and that's, I think it's so hard to say, right? Because there could be guys right now doing it, and we have no idea.
All right, we've got to wrap this up pretty quick. But let me ask, of the 4 major sports, because I know we can bet on anything. We can bet on ping pong or whatever, or lacrosse.
Russian cricket.
Right, Russian cricket. Of the 4, which is the most fun for you to place a bet and then watch the game?
That's such a good question. I think in terms of where I know I'm gonna get the best bang for my buck, where I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have the most entertaining for me would be probably hockey, right? I just love betting hockey. I do like betting the baseball, but I like to bet it more so in the playoffs, because I think it matters obviously more to them, but you just feel it more. I don't. Yeah, there's more of like it's hard to explain. I just think if you're betting like on a game in late and early September, that doesn't really matter in baseball. It doesn't have that feel to it. But like playoff baseball is really fun to bet on, and I love to bet on the golf. I enjoy it. I think it's really, the golf's very fun. I think it's fun taking a guy or two and you're rooting for him all week. Maybe they don't make the cut or whatever, and you're like, you know what? Let me live bet. Let me take another guy. So I think that's always fun. You could take guys to be in the top 10, 20. So like that's always, they don't even have to win. It's a good time.
Well, the golf's very when you're doing this, are you with a group of guys?
Oh yes. Oh yeah.
How much are you spending other than gambling for drinks, food?
Well, no. Greg, here's the beauty of it. I have a good pack of about 5 of us out of my buddies that just enjoy it. So the rule is, if you win, you pay for the whole meal. You pay for all the beer and the dinner. You like that or no?
Yeah, well, I got to make sure I win all the time.
Yeah, exactly. If one person wins, they have the beers that night. That's our rule.
All right, cool. Anything else, Greg?
No, this has been fun.
How about this? Vinny, in your current state, you don't look like a gambling degenerate, but turn your head around.
Does it look like I mean business now?
Yeah, there you go. Now you look like a gambling degenerate. You look like a winner.
You could be my cousin Vinny.
My cousin Vinny, huh?
Yeah. All right.
That
hey,
movie,
Vin,
that movie was just on yesterday.
Oh, was it?
Yes, yeah. It was. It was.
Cool. All right. Well, anyway, thank you. That was good. I got some information.
Really was entertaining, Vinny. Really.
Yeah. And then
anytime.
also, Greg, when we're done here, you're going to give them a name for or no, maybe just pick do what he said for the Stanley Cup there. Pick a over or under on the goals. Or do you want to do it now? Do you think they're going to score more than 5 goals? You said, Vin.
5.5.
You think they're going to score more than 5.5 on Monday night?
I have no. I don't know.
All right, we're going to take that as a no.
I don't know. I don't
Okay,
know.
you heard it here. Bet the under. That's Greg's pick. The under for sure.
Right. All right.
It's a lock, as we like to
Well,
say.
in
It's
many
a lock.
ways, I'd like to see Edmonton win to knock this. Nobody's won the 3 after being down 3-0.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
And also, I'm a sucker for the NHL when a Canadian team is in there. I'd like to see them win just because the whole country celebrates like big time. So, hey, we have to wrap it up. Vinny, thank you very much. Greg, always
Vinny,
nice talking to
really,
you.
thank you for taking your time, Vinny.
Of course. I hope we can do this again. Maybe we'll do this. Maybe we'll do a gambling segment where we all come up with picks. How does that sound? Maybe we'll do that in the future.
I'm in.
Okay. Let me think about that.
He doesn't want to commit. All right.
No.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. We really
Any
appreciate
other
it.
ideas you can give us, please? All right. Thank you. Thank you, Vinny.
Yeah, of course.